Welcome to Catalyze. I'm your host, Sarah O'Carroll. I have with me Nicholas Byrne from the class of 2019. Based in Athens, Georgia, Nicholas is a producer, guitarist, and singer. You heard from him last fall during his first appearance on Catalyze, when he was road tripping across the country with Eric Lee from the class of 2018 and Sam Lowe from the class of 2020. We invited Nicholas back to the show to hear about his most recent projects, and because we thought you might want to hear more about the artist creating the music that's featured on the series. We'll play some of his music throughout today's conversation, so if you like what you're hearing, go find Nicholas at Arts and Crafts on Instagram and Spotify. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey.
So you are recording from Smithonia right now, or where are you at the moment?
I'm currently in this building that is called the Commissary, and this property is where my grandparents live. They are retired now, and they moved here in like 1996, I think. So the year that I was born. Smithonia was one of the largest plantations in Georgia in the 1920s, and it was a sharecropping plantation. Since then, my grandparents have moved here and retired, and they spend a lot of time gardening. But yeah, it's definitely a place of historical significance.
Yeah, and it sounds like you built out a recording/production studio, which is really cool. Catch us up to speed with what you've been doing and the kinds of music you've been producing.
Yeah, so I moved to Athens after graduating from UNC in December of 2019 and was planning on doing bunch of parties here, and I was doing that kind of thing in Chapel Hill. Since the pandemic, I was here with a group of friends that just decided to move down to Athens because it's, cheaper than New York and a fun place to be when the world kind of took a pause. But yeah, so I've been here for the past year, spending pretty much every day like practicing music production. I have a music project called Arts and Crafts. I've also been collaborating with a lot of other friends recently and like working more as a producer. So that's very exciting. I'm releasing an album with my friend Audrey and Henry, who both went to UNC, and that band is called Hiding Places. So we're going through the motions with that, which is exciting. We're going to get it mastered, put it on vinyl. It's been cool. I don't think that this would have happened if I hadn't spent a year sitting and working in this room by myself, essentially. I think a lot of the learning happens when I sit down for hours and don't look up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I would want to hear more about Audrey's collaboration. You mentioned Henry too, because people will start hearing your music a bit more on this series. So share about how you guys got connected, and also where did Hiding Places come from?
So Audrey and I we met on Instagram first, but I was doing like booking shows in Chapel Hill at this venue called Nightlight, which is on Rosemary. And we needed some photographers for the event. And I think I put out an email on the radio station, the UNC WXYC radio station listserv, and was like, hey, like any photographers? And I think Audrey reached out immediately, was just like, great, like this is the best photographer at UNC. This is great. Yeah, Audrey is multi-talented, is an amazing songwriter and singer and guitar player and photographer. But yeah, we related on a variety of horizons, I think. Like I started out as a photographer, and also like she's from Asheville and I'm from Athens, and they're kind of similar towns.
Both very artistic towns, I think.
Yeah. We both grew up like spending a lot of time like with friends who are artists and that kind of thing. So it was cool to find each other at UNC and to start collaborating. Our friend Henry, who we also met through the radio station, he lives in Athens and plays drums. And so we've been tracking drums on all the songs. And our bass player, Anthony, who Henry and I have actually never met, he's in Asheville and is one of Audrey's friends from growing up. It's pretty cool to be able to work remotely with music stuff, because a lot of people have home recording setups and you can just send files and get the files back that you need, which is my favorite thing ever, is to get the stems of audio files in my email.
I wonder if it's similar to podcasting, because after this pandemic, I think there will be even more of a saturation, I think, as we are recording one ourselves today, but people getting more creative at home and realizing that they don't have to be in a traditional setting to build some things up. And it can be more amateur or it can be as professional as it gets. It just seems like there's been a wide range of people trying new things since they're spending more time at home.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. I think a lot of people are learning how to record themselves with audio and video. And it's interesting because like I have been a video editor for a while and kind of thought about that at some point in time. I was like, I bet that everyone's going to get really good at video editing. Maybe I should do some other stuff too.
I think, there's might be some parallels as well with music, because I'm sure that AI is also making a lot of advances there in what's possible. Do you want to speak to that, or do you have any thoughts about where music technology might be going and how that might intersect with the human creativity behind it?
I mean, I'm most excited for the creative tools that will be coming out. And I think that always there is a relationship between technology and music. Throughout the history of music, that's been a common theme, and I think will continue to be a theme. So I'm excited for the tools, right? Like, I'm not necessarily I don't think that there's going to be in the near future, like totally like AI generated music that like is great. But I think that like there will be AI powered music tools that will be great. And that will be very interesting to use to like modify music in post-production. So, I use a lot of music software. Artists figure out ways to use technology in interesting ways. So I'm not worried about that. And I think it actually will be really cool for those that are interested in exploring that. It's always exciting, I think.
Is there any software you've used recently that is newer on the market that you're excited about?
In the video sphere, I use like processing units called circuit benders. And so it's actually not new technology, but it's kind of a niche technology. So it's essentially like you can use like physical hardware from like the 90s, like TV station boxes that cool. These kind of hacker people will add additional controls to. So
hacker people, what do you mean by hacker people?
Like they go into the circuit board and they like make new connections and they like solder together different parts of circuits. So I have been really enjoying using that thing for the past couple of years. I have this one by this guy, Tachyons Plus is the name of the designer, and the name of the device is the Dream Weapon. So I think that's pretty interesting. Powerful. It's really cool. As far as like audio software goes, I use Ableton pretty regularly. I also use like Pro Tools. There's nothing AI related recently that I'm like super thrilled on. My friend Sam is actually he's doing some AI research at Stanford, and we have a few music projects together. And so he's pretty jazzed on all that stuff, and is like learning how to code software effects from the ground up, which is very cool. And he does a degree of like programming songs too, which is interesting. And I don't know that that's not something that I'm going to be really doing, but I definitely think it's cool to learn that stuff and to learn the rules of the tech so that you can kind of learn to break them.
So share more about your collaboration with Sam. And also I wanted to ask, I was listening to some of your music on Spotify and I hear Sam ordering fast food, which was really funny. And also there's some cameos of Siri talking. And so I wanted to ask if you were recording that looking for inspiration or if it was just a funny moment. And also, what is the role of humor in your work, would you say?
I definitely go through phases of recording and editing and writing. And so like when we're doing a writing phase, and this could be like with Audrey or Sam or anybody, like I'm finger on the trigger on the microphone. I'm like listening, like ready to hit record. Yeah, Sam loves to get fast food. He loves to go to the Varsity in Athens. And we were just nearly done with like arranging the project. And I just thought it'd be funny to hit record. I definitely like to mess around like in the studio. I think that it's being so serious all the time, like takes like the fun out of it and can suck the life out of your creative process. And so, I'm super big on having a good time because like, even if the recording isn't good, like even if the song isn't good, at least you had fun doing it, kind of like scream around, like in the studio, like to like hype people up. Like if like Audrey, I remember was playing like a guitar solo and I was just kind of like standing at the top of the stairs, like being like, yeah, like you rock, like that kind of thing. And it's fun because it's like, I think like the role of a producer like really is to like try to like bring the life out of a song or like a creative project. And that's something that like I try to do in all of my work.
Yeah, on one hand, you're doing this professionally, and so you have to be thinking about, I'm going to produce a vinyl and maybe finance it and work with other people and work on distributing it. And so I can see how all of that noise would really detract from just the creative process in and of itself. And so if you don't shut off that noise, even if it's not a joyous song, if it's a sadder song or whatever it is that you're expressing, removing the kind of transactional experience, I feel like would be important in order to just have the most integrity about the work itself.
Right. It's definitely two very different headspaces, and it's hard to code switch between them. Today, for example, is a kind of it's like a work day for me. I have like a few things scheduled. But yesterday there was nothing on my calendar, and I just have, a to-do list for this week and just kind of knocking things off like as they feel need to be approached in that moment. So it's cool to learn how to do both of those things because they are very important. If you can understand like some business side of things, like as an artist, I think it is always very beneficial. There are a lot of artists who want nothing to do with that, which also makes a lot of sense. You might even be a better artist if you do that or create better work and have a team that can do that kind of thing with you. It makes a lot of sense why there's teams that work with artists, labels and managers and that kind of thing, so that they can actually do their thing uninterrupted. Kind of in the modern era of like young independent artists, like you definitely have to do those things yourself. No one's really going to run your social media for you. Big artists are encouraged to have like a very personal social media profile. I don't think you can get away with as fully promotional social media anymore because people just don't like to see that as much, I think.
But doesn't that make it harder then to have, I'm hearing the message of you should have a personal account, and that can help you give some creative distance from the noise of, like, if you have a bunch of followers and they didn't like this song as much as the other based off your post. And so does that change your process? But then at the same time, we're seeing more authentic content that is someone just sharing with their iPhone, and it doesn't always have to be glossy. So it sort of feels like they're competing sometimes.
They're definitely competing. Like I think that I'm in this for the longer haul and am mostly interested in making songs and making visual art. And, you have to do the marketing stuff. But I think that the kind of approach that I'm taking is like, I'm just going to get really good at what I really like to do and have that be like the guiding like focus, and have the marketing of it be second to like the work itself, because I think that there's a lot of focus on the marketing of art and like the social points of making something. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, that's like so cool. Like, that's not exactly what I want to do. I just want to make songs and I just want to like do shows. I don't know. You have to do it. But like, I think that if that becomes your passion, that's your passion and not making the work. I don't know. There's definitely a balance. There's definitely a balance.
How do you feel about NFTs? And would you ever want to get in on that market?
Yeah, no, I think that it's really cool that there are more avenues for independent artists to have more control over their art and who is profiting off of it. Instagram and TikTok and whatever, like these are definitely platforms to draw attention to your art. But as far as like actually like making money off of that art, like that's a very different question. You have to be selling something. But I do think it's very interesting with NFTs, that kind of digital footprint, like as the NFT is like sold over time, like the artist gets a cut. I think that that's really cool. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in thinking about how I can get involved and making digital art in that way. It definitely is much more of an incentive, I think, for digital artists to make good work with that kind of payment structure involved. Yeah, I'm sure that like big labels and stuff will find a way to ultimately make more money than the independent artist in that realm, because that's what always happens. But I think that like in the early days of it, like there's a lot of opportunity. It's kind of hard to understand exactly
Yeah,
how it's going to evolve. And I think that that is part of the whole conversation, right? Everyone's kind of like, so what is this?
I'm glad to hear that because I don't understand how that totally works. And also, it kind of seems bizarre that there is such a market for a piece of art or music or something that has the original integrity and to sell it from that basis. Because before, I mean, I've talked with Andrew Patterson about in a previous episode about the streaming wars, about people also used to just download things off Reddit, and people still do that, but now people use Netflix, and so they don't just rob things off the internet. And so it's interesting to see what's going on here, that people are willing to pay so much in this volatile market for something that is the real deal, versus just trying to find ways that you can just, download it and and rob from the artist in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real robbing, if I may say it, is like it's the platforms who are selling ads based on the artists filling the feed. That is the real crime here. I really think that like another solution to this could be for social media companies to be paying creators. Like why does that not happen? I don't know. There's a lot of money being pumped into advertising like on social media. And I studied advertising at UNC and ultimately was just like, wow, like it's crazy that they are not paying creators more when they are creating all of the value on these platforms. There very well could be a large shift in like the creative landscape of the internet, because there are so many creators, which is awesome. Yeah, that's my soapbox on that. But I do think it's ridiculous that like they make you pander to get likes and like adapt your art to their algorithm so that they can sell ads and you make no money. It's just
mean, and you've done a lot of social media campaigns too in your post-grad work. And I'm also curious if I could put you back on the soapbox if you want to hear your thoughts about Spotify, because there seems to be a really big opportunity to have diverse voices in there, but it's all controlled by Spotify and, which playlists they push and depending on their algorithms, how they kind of nudge people in different genres, and perhaps even decide on your behalf what kind of musician you are, as if you're just one. So anyway, I'm giving too many of my own thoughts about this. So what do you think about it? And, do the pros go past the cons, or what's your perspective and how the platform's evolving?
I remember I was following Spotify pretty closely when it was like in the pretty early days. I remember I was on Spotify the first day that it came in to the United States. And when it first came out, there was like an inbox feature, which was very, very cool. And I remember like I only had a few friends that were on Spotify at the time, but it was essentially that you could send songs inside of the app to your friends. And that immediately became like my favorite messenger and like platform ever, right? Because it was every free song ever, or every song for free. And you could also like message and stuff. But yeah, my unconfirmed theory is they removed this feature. And I do think that it like was in a move to keep editorial control on the platform, where Spotify has there was potential for influencers to exist on Spotify with that kind of messaging platform available in the profiles and stuff. But there aren't really influencers on Spotify now. There are some accounts that are independent from labels and from the Spotify like editorial team that do have a decent amount of followers, but they're not that many, and they're not that big. I was a little bit just also like annoyed that they took away my favorite feature at some point in time. That I literally use it every day. You could probably find a funny Google search of disgruntled music nerds. It's a real tragedy, and they should bring it back. But ultimately, I think it comes down to this kind of question of like, who are you building the platform for? Is this platform designed to like just milk as much cash as you can, or is this platform designed for like the users or the creators And like, how are you going to keep them there? Like, how are you going to have like a long lasting platform that people like to use? I have a lot of friends who make content and put it on Instagram and put it on Spotify, and no one really likes it. And it's like, why does it have to be like that?
As in they don't have a huge following or because it doesn't fit neatly in maybe what's of mass appeal right now.
I just think it's that the platforms don't treat artists well, essentially, and that there is a lot of opportunity to put more money in the pockets of artists, and consistently Spotify chooses not to do that. Instagram chooses not to do that. So shame on them for the people that are creating a lot of value on these platforms. So, I mean, I do not want to come off as like a total tech pessimist. Like, I love a lot of things about Spotify. It totally changed the way that I listen to music, and exposed me to a lot of new genres. And I think that ultimately has influenced the development of genre as far as popular music, significantly, which I think is really, really cool. But I do think that there could be a shakeup, as far as as far as platforms go, and how creators are treated as there become more people who really want to do this. If you look at what the top jobs that kids want to be are, they want to be YouTubers, they want to be musicians, and they want to be content creators. And I think that at some point in time there will be a turn where it becomes a lot more equitable for artists and creators. So looking forward to that, and I think it will happen.
And I'm seeing also more startups launching that match influencers to different brands. And so we're seeing more of this being institutionalized, I feel like, which could be good, perhaps from an equitable standpoint, if those startups are coming from a place and thinking about equity and who they're promoting and choosing. But I can also see that just becoming even more business oriented versus what social media, I think the premise of it was making it more human and relational. And so yet another step in that direction. And you mentioned being a pessimist. I think I ask most questions with let's talk about what's actually going on here, which is the cynical look of it. So I think that's my own bias going into it, but it's really interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that something that has been inspiring to me, from, I don't know, I've been on social media for a long time. At this point, I got very inspired to get into more in-person experiences as a response to these digital experiences that all of us now have. And to really emphasize I don't know. I think it's easy to forget when you're surrounded by colorful screens all the time, that there are really fun things that you can do socially, in person, in a real space. And I don't think that, that is lost on us yet. A lot of people really like that, but that pushed me into wanting to make things that exist outside of my laptop screen, and make things that are seen beyond other people's little rectangle.
Or to not even view the act of being with people as a content creation opportunity. I hope we're not hanging out just because at some point you want a photo to then share on social media, which seems to negate what we were doing as kind of real, because that seemed like the purpose of it,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I used to do these parties in Chapel Hill called office hours. Who knows, maybe that will come back one day. But what we would do at these shows is we would put stickers on people's cell phone cameras so that you couldn't take photos. And we would just say have fun, be here, that kind of thing. Because we were taking photos of the event. There was documentation for sure, but that was something that I did a study abroad in Berlin, and a lot of the different venues there, you'd go out and they would put stickers on your phone, because it allows you to have this third space, this other time, where you don't have to worry about people taking photos, and you don't have to worry about taking photos yourself. Like, you are not allowed to. I don't know. That kind of thing, I think, is a really fun twist on like contemporary, like social media culture, to tell people that you can't take photos.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think it's weird to me how that is so bizarre if you say no photos and suddenly people are like, what do we do? Or it seems so offensive or something. When you're just asking, let's not surveil in any way or try to capture something. Let's just live this right now. I also want to ask you about the Parsons School of Design in New York City, which you just got accepted to. Congratulations again. So how are you thinking about that program? Or do you think you're going to, is it okay if I ask if you're going to accept, or what's on your mind as you're thinking about next steps?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it, and definitely leaning towards accepting. I think I'm going to talk to a few mentors and stuff before making a final decision. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm very excited about. So it's an MFA in lighting design, which is pretty interesting to me because, I mean, as we were just talking about, like these physical experiences, I think I got turned on to this direction also by, like, you know, the study abroad that I spent in Berlin. I would basically go to a lot of different shows, like in nightclubs and stuff, and basically took notes, like, about what was cool about the experience. You know, they make you wait in line for 2 hours and you don't even know if you're going to get in. You get in, there's a sticker on your phone. You can't take photos. Okay, we're in a cool room now. Like, what makes it interesting? Often, very often, like, lighting has a huge psychological effect that is, you know, very interesting to me as far as like how you can craft an experience. You know, it kind of all relates to like the time that I spend in recording studios as well. Like, you're trying to draw life out of something. And like, how do you accomplish that? Like, music can do that, light can do that, and music and light together is a very potent combination. So yeah, I mean, I would be very interested in working on stage lighting, music studio design, and studio lighting, and also like club lighting. So that's kind of the connect with all the various music interests, and just like thinking about like how to like amplify a moment and to make a moment feel lively is something that I'm very interested in pursuing and creating. So yeah.
I'm excited to see what you do next and the kinds of music and art you'll create there.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Catalyze. I'm Sarah O'Carroll, and that was Nicholas Byrne of Arts and Crafts from the class of 2019. The alumnus earned his bachelor's degree from the UNC-Hussman School of Journalism and Media. This episode also featured music by singer-songwriter and guitarist Audrey Walsh from the UNC-Chapel Hill Class of 2023, and a DJ at the student-run station WXYC 89.3 FM. Other songs contributed were by Sam Lowe from the class of 2020, who goes by Sacra Monet. You can view the full list of collaborators and where to find their music in the episode description. And as always, you can let us know what you thought of today's episode or who you want to be featured next by emailing us at communications@morehead-cain.org or by finding us on Twitter or Instagram at Morehead-Cain.